This is Focus with Jack Caudill.
Good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome to this month's edition of Focus. This month we're talking about the City of Deadwood, past, present, and into the future. Three guests with us tonight. George Milos is the Executive Director of the Deadwood Gaming Association. Kevin Kuchenbecker is the City of Deadwood's Historic Preservation Officer, and Bobby Rock is the Director of Outlaw Square in Deadwood. The history of Deadwood goes back to the gold rush of the 1870s. Gold was discovered in the northern Black Hills back in 1875. Miners quickly moved in and Deadwood was born. Plenty of historical figures along the way, people like Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane. Town ravaged by fire a couple of times, 1879 and 1959, and the town took another big turn when gambling was legalized in the town back in 1989. Thank you guys all for coming up. George, is going to start with you. When you think of Deadwood today, what do you think of when you think of the town of Deadwood?
Well, I think I really think of the town as a town that has found its way to reinvent itself over and over and over again. I grew up in Lead, graduated high school from Lead High School, and have lived in Deadwood for close to 30 years. And I've seen the town work together to go from being pretty much down in the dumps to legalizing gaming, to restoring the entire town, although it's a work in progress, I'm sure Kevin will say, brought gaming in and has created a new life for the town, which it has done, as you mentioned in the opening. You know, fire after fire, they've always reinvented themselves, and I really see Deadwood as a community that has done it again and again.
Kevin, you're the Historic Preservation Officer, plus more, in the City of Deadwood. What do you think of when you think of Deadwood?
Old West town. When you think of the Old West, you think of Dodge City, Tombstone, and Deadwood, and I think we live up to our name. We've been entertaining guests since 1876. It's, as George mentioned, historic preservation ethic in Deadwood is strong. We have a beautiful community and have a lot of visitors, and thanks to gaming, it has helped fund the restoration of Deadwood, and history is our economic engine.
How about you, Bobby? You're the director up there at Outlaw Square. What do you think of when you think of the City of Deadwood?
I think of the people. The people are what makes Deadwood very special. Like Kevin referred to, we get millions of visitors, 3.5 million visitors a year, but it's the people of Deadwood that really make that go. Whether it's from the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's from the City Commission, Historic Preservation, the gaming, the restaurants, all the workers, we all make Deadwood work as one to make sure everybody that comes to town has a great experience. And that's what we all strive to make Deadwood be, is a great experience for those that come and visit.
Now, Kevin, the town has a designation of a National Historic Landmark. How do you balance that historic preservation and moving forward at the same time? How do you draw that balance?
Well, we were designated a National Historic Landmark July 4th, 1961. And I think the first few years, you know, they didn't even know where the plaque of that designation was. But when Deadwood was in one of the slumps, as George called it, where we needed a little more economic vitality and revitalize the community. The leaders at that time formed the Deadwood You Bet Committee and looked at legalizing gaming, and they said, well, what do we do with the revenues generated from that? And they knew that historic preservation was important. We've been doing that very early on. You know, we just came off the Days of 76 rodeo, which is their 103rd. We have one of the longest running plays in the United States with the trial of Jack McCall. And those are, you know, we had reenactors in 1924 on Main Street with Deadwood Dick, and so it's something that we have hung our hat on, have protected it, have preserved it, and promote our history. And so it works. And like I said, we don't have the big boxes. We don't have an industrial park. Main Street's our industrial park, and it's because of our history.
Now, you talk about historic preservation. what are you guys doing as far as historic preservation for the buildings on Main Street?
So every building permit that is issued in the city of Deadwood has to go through a review process. And so whether it's residential or commercial, we make sure that it follows the Secretary of Interior standards. We have design guidelines that help guide that. And so we have a variety of programs that we're using some of our gaming revenues to generate grants for residential and facade programs for our commercial structures. And for the most part, everybody's working together to keep that status as a National Historic Landmark.
George, how does the gaming industry play into that historic preservation picture?
Well, back in 1989, we were only the third place in the United States where you could legally gamble. And now you throw a dart on a dartboard, and within 50 miles, you're going to find a casino. And I don't think the industry has ever been naive enough to believe that people are going to come just for the gaming. They truly believe that it's the history and the work that's been done through historic preservation to give people a reason to come. So through the reenactments, through the restoration of the buildings, through Deadwood just being Deadwood, gives people a reason to come to town, and hopefully they'll game.
How about funding? Does the gaming industry fund a lot of that?
They do. A large portion of historic preservation's budget, it comes directly from gaming, plus the different bid districts also provide funding for different special events throughout Deadwood. So gaming plays a very prominent role in both the marketing of Deadwood as well as the historic preservation of the town.
Now, Bobby, in the big scheme and timeline of Deadwood, Outlaw Square, pretty much a newcomer in all of that. How does Outlaw Square fit into all of that?
Well, Outlaw Square, born in 2019, of course, it was a vision that happened a long time ago before I came back to Deadwood in 2018, but Roger Brooks said Deadwood needed a green space, is when they did this survey through Main Street Initiative. And they went through a lot of different versions of it and visions of it till they came to where they are now. And it's really fit in well because we preserve the history around Deadwood. It's really unique that Outlaw Square is built on the old site of City Hall and the Deadwood Opera House. When they did the excavating of the property, one of the coolest things I remember that was happening is Kevin and I were in a meeting and the engineers came over and knocked on the door and said, "You guys need to come down here." We found different pieces of the original jail cell walls that were in City Hall there, the old boiler that heated both the Opera House and City Hall. So there's history all over, especially even at Outlaw Square. And one of the coolest pieces they found, when you talk about history, is they found the original foundation of the Deadwood Opera House on the corner of Whitewood Creek when they were reinforcing the walls. Or not Whitewood Creek, excuse me, City Creek. And when they brought that piece up, they cut it and sliced it, and they sent it for dating. And the birth date of that piece of wood was 1640. That's the history that Deadwood carries with it. Below us, above ground and below ground, there's so much to be found in Deadwood, and a lot of it is right around Outlaw Square.
So how do you preserve some of that? When you're building Outlaw Square, how do you preserve some of that stuff you found out there?
Well, a lot of it was done through historic preservation and through Mike Runge, who is the
City Archivist and Collections Manager.
Yeah, they're always on site, and a lot of that is preserved within town, and within City Hall is where they took a lot of that, and Mike has some of that stuff too, right?
Yeah, and we have interpretive panels. We found the boiler door, and that's hung on the wall there. When we designed Outlaw Square, we took design cues from the original City Hall. So we've incorporated some of that history right into Outlaw Square.
In fact, when you do a walking tour around Deadwood, you have the booklet, you can see those interpretive panels spread around town and even around the square by City Creek, and then on the wall at Outlaw Square is where that door is placed, and you can read the history of what it's about.
Now, you guys have a lot of new stuff at Outlaw Square. How much do the people that come there to see that want to see this old stuff too?
They do. They ask where they can find a lot of it, and I direct them to the Adams Museum, which is directly across the street from Outlaw Square over to Pioneer Way. So they're very fascinated with everything that we have there. When the stagecoach is running, they're really fascinated with that. Reading the interpretive panels that we have for both Calamity Jane and the Lee Street gazebo, which is an exact replica of what was built on Lee Street. We have it located at the square. They can really find out all the information right there, and they really find it intriguing.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll continue our look at the City of Deadwood when we continue with this month's edition of Focus. I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about the city of Deadwood, past, present, and future. Kevin Kuchenbecker is the City of Deadwood Historic Preservation Officer. Kevin, a lot is made about a lot of the archaeological sites up in Deadwood. And you guys still digging around, still finding stuff. What's going on up there these days as far as archaeology goes?
Well, anytime there is new construction, we require archaeology. We also, whenever they're digging on Main Street, we either bring in the State Archaeological Research Center or another professional archaeologist, or staff may monitor it as well. So last week, in fact, there was some utility work done in the old Chinatown area, which we've done a multiple year archaeological investigation, and we're monitoring that utility trench, and several artifacts came out. So as recent as last week, we were doing archaeology, and in that case, it was recovery. Most of the area was disturbed, but found artifacts from the 1880s all the way up to a tin can in the Matrix, but very fascinating. And we have a large archaeological collection that we partner with our Deadwood History. We have some of those in all 5 of their facilities, whether it's the Homestake Adams Research Center, the Adams House, the Adams Museum, which Bobby mentioned, the Days of 76 Museum, and then the most recent facility that Deadwood History has is the Brothel Museum. And so some of those artifacts are on display in all of those.
Is it unusual for a city like Deadwood to have, as you dig for new stuff, that old stuff is still there?
Deadwood, as you mentioned in your opening, had several fires. The big fire of September 26, 1879, destroyed 300 buildings. We had natural disasters from floods. And so we just continued to build on that layer after layer after layer. And so in Deadwood, yes, anywhere you walk, there's probably history that you're looking at, but also under your feet. And so we're a little unusual that we require archaeology, but that's how you develop the story and learn from the past.
How much fun is it for you guys when you find this stuff?
Oh, it's very exciting. I guess we geek out on it.
George Milos is the Deadwood Gaming Association Executive Director. You mentioned earlier when they legalized gambling in Deadwood in 1989, just a couple of places in the country where you could do this. How has gaming really reworked Deadwood from the ground up?
Well, I mean, from the very beginning, it was the old-time slot machines, and you'd hear those coins dropping, and your hands would get all kind of black from carrying those coins around. And obviously, as technology has improved, there's all kinds of different games now. Back then, there was a $5 limit, and now the limit's much larger. Plus, there's table games. You can play blackjack, poker, craps, roulette. And so I think, Deadwood has had to adapt to the changes across the country. The only problem is that takes constitutional changes, and we've had to go back to the voters of South Dakota a couple times, but fortunately, the voters of South Dakota have trusted the industry to do what's right. So.
Now, the big latest change is the addition of sports books up there.
Yeah.
How big of a boon has that been for Deadwood?
Well, I think if you talk to the different properties in Deadwood, sports betting has brought in folks that are going to stick around and play a little longer. It might not be the most popular. Slot machines are obviously the most popular form of gaming in Deadwood, but what the sports books do is bring clients in and they put a wager on the game, but then they're going to stick around. They're going to wait to see what the end of the game brings, and they might game. They might go see some sites in Deadwood. But what we're seeing is that sports betting's keeping people in town a little longer than normal. So.
Now, there's been a push now and then to allow gambling outside of Deadwood, let you vote online, or not vote online, but gamble online. Where does that sit now?
Well, there's always the potential that that's going to be coming up to the legislature. There was a couple of legislators that wanted to bring a bill this past session, but they do want to work together with Deadwood as an industry to potentially bring mobile sports betting to Deadwood, but right now there's no plan to bring it before the legislature just yet.
All right. Bobby Rock is the director of Outlaw Square up in Deadwood. Bobby, events have become a big part of the draw up in Deadwood. How do those fit in, and how have those grown over time up there?
Well, they've grown. Initially Deadwood is still really popular with Cool Deadwood Nights is one of the biggest events that takes place on Main Street. Main Street's been the focus, but now with Outlaw Square, we're able to have another music venue, and we're able to incorporate that into what we do with the events, whether it's being a partner with those events or on our own. And we've developed an area where we're doing our own concerts at the square, which bring in a whole different aspect of people from around the region. We're doing more family fun activities, like you mentioned earlier. Ice bumper cars in the winter have been a huge hit with our rink. Our rink is a synthetic rink. It's not real ice, it's glice. So we're able to add the ice bumper cars to that. That brings in the family fun aspect of what we do at the square. We have the Deadwood Alive programs that take place on the square. And we were talking about history either. One thing I failed to mention, that we've partnered with Deadwood History Incorporated, that every Tuesday is our Family Fun Tuesday, that they do special Deadwood history programs for families to partake in. They're interactive programs. Monday night movie night, we bring people from around the region, from Rapid City, from Spearfish, from Belle Fourche, that come to watch our movies. And then the concerts, of course, have been a big hit with the shows that we've been doing, whether it's our summer kickoff that we've done in Memorial Day weekend, or July 4th concerts, Labor Day concerts, and also Deadwood Jam has moved to the square. So entertainment has become a big deal at Deadwood. It has always been entertaining people since 1876, as Kevin mentioned, and we continue that now with the Outlaw Square area.
So how have the concerts worked out? You can have those without shutting the whole town down.
Exactly. And the other big aspect about that is our concerts. The majority of the concerts we've done are free. We have done some ticketed events in the past, but the majority of the ones we do are free. So that brings a whole different aspect of who's coming to the show. You see a lot more families at these concerts. Yes, you have the partiers that are out having a great time, but then you also see with Dad, with his young boy up on his shoulders, enjoying a Smash Mouth concert like we had last year. So it's a lot of fun. It's become a big family entertainment corner these days.
And you said you got something new coming?
Got something new coming. Hopefully within the next week or two, we have acquired a 28-foot rock climbing tower. It has 4 different belays on it, 4 different paths that you can climb up. It's completely safe, and it's going to be a fun new summer experience at the square for families to partake in.
All right, sounds like an adventure. We've got to take another break. We'll continue our look at the city of Deadwood when we return with this month's edition of Focus. I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about the city of Deadwood, past, present, and future. Kevin Kuchenbecker is the City of Deadwood Historic Preservation Officer, talking about some of these programs that you guys have going for historic preservation. You've got grant programs for other parts of the state too.
Yes.
What is that, and how does that work?
So we set aside out of our operating budget $100,000 a year to provide grants across the state. It's called our Outside of Deadwood Grant Program. And we fund projects that are related to Deadwood's history in other communities, whether it's an opera house where maybe the same venue or theater presentation was in Deadwood, also in Del Rapids, and so there's a tie there. So we've funded multiple projects across the state, over $4 million worth of preservation projects across the state. And then through the gaming revenues and the formula that's set forth by the legislature, we also have the Deadwood Grant Program, which is funded through the State Historic Preservation Office, and they also give $100,000 a year. So it's probably the biggest preservation grant in the state, is either the Outside of Deadwood Grant Program or the Deadwood Fund Program, and we've funded great projects all across the state.
Bobby Rock is the director of Outlaw Square up in Deadwood. Bobby, when I got here back in the early 80s, Deadwood was known for some really colorful characters up there. Is that part still around in Deadwood?
Depends on how late it is on a Friday or Saturday night, but those colorful characters are still alive, around. We keep them alive through Deadwood History. Deadwood Alive's program does really well with that, with the gunfights that take place at 2, 4, and 6. They reenact actual events that took place in Deadwood, and they get those records from the old Black Hills Pioneer newspaper from way back in the day, and we have some great colorful actors that do that. Of course, the shooting of Wild Bill takes place every day at the Saloon Number 10. So we try to keep history alive and those colorful characters throughout what we do at the square also, when we have them perform on the stage too.
All right. George Milos is the Executive Director of the Deadwood Gaming Association. You are a lifer up in the Northern Hills, grew up in Lead, been in Deadwood for a long time. How have you seen that area evolve since you were a kid up there?
Well, back then, when I was a kid, Homestead Gold Mine was the big thing. Lead was prosperous, Lead was doing well, Deadwood was struggling. The infrastructure was failing, they were struggling for tourists. Then the mine closed. The Deadwood UBEC committee was able to get gaming voted in through the state, and you saw kind of a turnaround, but now the lab's up in Lead, so now you see kind of a resurgence of both towns, and it's really heartwarming to see both towns thriving the way they are.
What's the future look like? Where do you see Deadwood going down the road here?
I see Deadwood to continue to reinvent itself, to keep changing with the times. You know, I think we're always going to have characters in Deadwood, like you said. I think you got 3 of them right here.
I was just thinking of that.
And I do. I think Deadwood has found a way to work together, not only with historic preservation, but with each other. The casinos work together to market the town as a community. They work together with historic preservation to market the community. So I see the industry continuing to thrive here in Deadwood because there is a reason for people to come.
Kevin, where do you see is the future of Deadwood?
You know, I've been in Deadwood going on my 20th year, and I've seen change even in those 20 years. Early on, we had a lot of what I'll call mom and pop casinos on Main Street, and that's changed with some of the bigger establishments growing and those mom and pops going out, but retail coming in and really diversifying, and I think that's helped bring more activity into the community. We've got great shopping now, specialty boutiques, we have great restaurants, we got our gaming halls, we've got recreation, we've added 5 miles of hiking and biking trails that start in Deadwood and go out into the forest area, and great overviews. So recreation's going to continue to grow. We've got a master plan for that. I think Deadwood's going to continue to be strong, and at the core of it, I'm proud to say, historic preservation is part of that.
All right. Bobby Rock, what do you see? What's the future of Deadwood? Where are we going from here?
I think it's going to continue to grow as far as the partnerships between the businesses and the people. I mean, that's one of the things that the Square has been able to succeed at what it's done so far, is the partnerships that we've formed with the businesses, the casinos, the support we've gotten from the community and the region. And people are going to come more and more because we're going to provide more and more entertainment for them, because that's what Deadwood is known for, is for its entertainment, for its fun, for its bachelor parties, its bachelorette parties. It's people just coming down and enjoying what we have to offer. And we want to create a good experience for everyone that comes there, and we're going to continue to do that into the future. And it's going to continue with the shows that we do there. Every year we start planning ahead and what we're going to do next year. So it's always about looking forward and trying to move forward with everybody's expectations of what they get when they come to Deadwood.
You ready for a wave of motorcycles?
They're already there.
If I may, the next year is the sesquicentennial for Deadwood, 150 years after its founding. So it'll be a big year for us. We have a lot of signature events that we're going to incorporate, celebrating 150 years of Deadwood.
All right. I want to thank you guys. We are out of time. George Milos, Kevin Kuchenbecker, Bobby Rock, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you.
Up in Deadwood.
Thank you.
All right. That'll do it for us for this month's edition of Focus. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again the first Sunday night of next month. Good night.